Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about the British grading system for black tea and why this is important for you to know while you're shopping for tea. Now before we begin, I highly recommend you check out our back catalog of episodes, in particular the Fundamentals of Tea playlist and other episodes, and some of which I'll put up here in the banners. So the British tea system for grading teas, why is this important? Where does this come from? Well, we've talked about it in that episode on 4,500 years of tea history in 10 minutes, how obviously tea comes from the Camellia sinensis plant in China originally, in southern China. And for a long time, once the Portuguese and eventually the Dutch brought tea to the West, it caught up. It was a frenzy. And so the British at the time, or later, I should say in the 1800s, wanted to get more control of this market because this market was controlled by the Dutch and the prices were marked up by the Chinese because they had the monopoly on it. So eventually, through some shenanigans, through some espionage, through Robert Cutter was one of them, they were able to get pieces of the Camellia sinensis plant, the China bush, into India. Also, they found the Assamica bush in India, and for these two things, they were able to start cultivating their own tea. And most of the tea that they cultivated is black tea. This is why you think of Darjeeling, that's in India. You think of Nilgiri, that's in India. You think of many, Assam, that's in India, and so forth. And so now that they were able to start to cultivate their own black tea, they had a better control of the market, they can control the prices, and therefore can make a lot of money, the East India Company in particular. So in the 1850s, 1860s, 1870s, they started to ship their tea back to England, and England would have tea auctions. They would have tea auctions. And so they had to come up with a classification system as to what was the quality of tea. Because as you imagine back then with the ships, and even with the clipper ships, the faster ships that were later on the 1860s, 1870s, I mean, lots of times tea would not come in the best condition. And so they came up with a system in the auctions to classify what was really good quality and what was not as good quality. And so we still use this today. Now, this is mostly used today still in tea auctions in former British colonies, in particular, the three big ones that still export a lot of commodity black tea. That's going to be India, Kenya, and Sri Lanka. And we have a couple episodes here on Indian tea, and we have an episode on what is Ceylon tea or Sri Lankan tea. And so the classification system can be broken down to two. Now, CTC or crush, tear, curl, the ones that they pulverize into nothing to be used for iced tea and for low grade blends of black tea are not really in this classification system. This classification system is for orthodox tea leaves. Remember, there's two types of black tea: orthodox, otherwise known as loose leaf, and then the pulverized fannings. And so the classification system is used for the orthodox. And so the orthodox, they'll divide it into two categories. One will be whole leaf and one will be broken leaf. So if the tea leaves come in and they're still whole leaf, they've been dried, of course, and prepped, but they're whole leaf, then there's its own classification system. And it's pretty complex. So it's going to come in acronyms. I'm just going to throw out some acronyms for you really quickly. But the best of the best is going to be CFT GFOP. Yes, that's a lot of letters. That's Special Fine Tippy Golden Flowery Orange Pico. And then from there you go down. FTG FOP, TG FOP, GFOP, which is Golden Flowery Orange Pico, FOP, FP, OP. OP is Orange Pico, which is the lowest quality of whole leaf. Now, maybe you've heard of Orange Pico. Like you might go on an airline and ask them, what kind of tea do you have? We have Orange Pico. And I remember when I didn't know much about tea, I thought, oh, this is going to be an orange flavored black tea. No, it has nothing to do with the flavor. And when it comes to the grading system, it has nothing to do with the taste, necessarily the quality, even the aroma, nothing of that. It's classifying the actual leaves. So that's the whole leaf. Now, the other classification system is going to be broken leaf. So this is going to be on an inferior level than the whole leaf as expected because the whole leaf has the whole leaf. So with broken leaf, the best of the broken leaf, again, get ready for the acronyms. GFBOP, that's Golden Flowery Broken Orange Pico. And then from there you go down GB, OP, FBOP, BOP1, BOP, and then the worst is BPS, broken Pico Souchong. And so that's going to be the broken ones. Now you can still get fannings that are still great for blends. We have an episode that we did not long ago on what are blends. So let's say the fannings, and we talked about this, this is where you originally got tea bags, because you had a gentleman by the name, if I remember correctly, Johnson was his name, from about 100 years ago. He was at these tea auctions and he noticed that there was debris coming from the tea. And so he collected up these fannings, as we call them now, or sawdust of good quality tea. And then he gave it to his friends. And it wasn't the intention that he gave them to his friends in these nylon bags. And it was his intention to make tea bags. But a lot of people found this to be really convenient at the time, and that they kept it in the tea bag. So he essentially innovated the tea bag. So if you're getting fannings from very good quality tea, like something like the higher classifications of the whole leaf grading system, you can make good quality tea from that. And this is where you get a lot of the blends. A lot of the blends are going to be the fannings of decent quality tea, and then they blend them with other black teas to create unique blends. So why is this important? When you're shopping online or when you're at the tea store or whatever, you might see this classification. Again, you're only going to find it in English black teas. You're not going to find it in Chinese green teas, Japanese green teas, even Chinese black teas. This is only going to be in black tea that is cultivated from cultivars in India, Sri Lanka, and Kenya. And so when you're shopping, you might see the acronym behind it, and that gives you an idea. So in short, the longer the acronym, the better quality it is. And especially with whole leaf, when you see golden flowery, when you see fine tippy golden flowery, that stuff is really, really good. Golden flowery tippy. So when you see the word tippy, that's going to be really high quality whole leaf. And then when you're looking at broken leaf, anything that has to do with flowery in it is going to be relatively good. And then anything that just says orange Pico is going to be lower quality. Guys, I hope this helps. Post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.